Welcome back to Express on this Tuesday, February the 26th. Well, we begin with protests in Montreal this hour after a summit on higher education ended without consensus. Students are angry by the government's plan to raise tuition fees by about 3%. Riot police are on the streets and stun grenades have been fired and some arrests have been made.
Quebec's Premier Pauline Marois has announced that her government's summit on higher education is a success. That is said even as demonstrators are gathering in downtown Montreal for a protest expected to draw thousands of people this afternoon. Of course, this is something that goes on now, and it started, the Maple Spring, as they called it, around this time last year, late February, right through until the summer.
It started February? Wow. Okay, you're looking at visuals from earlier today, and you know, this is actually minutes ago, and it almost seems like Groundhog Day because, as you mentioned, we saw this last year. It was even coined Maple Spring, kind of in light of the Arab Spring. But police are out, and so are the protesters.
I'm just trying to tell you, looking at this visual, because of course I'm from Montreal, where exactly we're looking at here. And if I'm not mistaken, that is, we're right near Saint Denis. You can see people, one of the main streets in Montreal, people being arrested, some of them. We know that some stun grenades were deployed. Of course, it's important to mention that it was the most radical of the student groups, a group known as Assez, which stands for enough in French, that had boycotted this summit altogether. They want free tuition. They don't want a tuition freeze. They don't want to pay any tuition at all in the province of Quebec, and they decided not to be part of the summit at all.
Yeah, they believe that the new government is not listening to their ideas or giving them what they want. Interesting also because Pauline Marois got a lot of the votes of students, and she had promised in some parts to agree to what they wanted, and it turns out that that's not going to be the case, as we learned at the Education Summit, because she made that announcement yesterday that the tuition will be indexed to 3%, which is, I guess, the rate of inflation.
Absolutely.
So that's something like $70 annually, but a number of students not happy with that.
No, and of course, this is something that, as you mentioned correctly, the PQ, to a certain extent, won a minority government, in part because there was this social crisis in Quebec throughout last year. And the PQ had definitely been close to the student movement and said that they were going to try to bring about some kind of social peace. They were going to cancel the tuition fee increases. They did that, but they then decided to move forward with this modest increase, much less, it should be noted, than the Liberal government under Jean Charest had decided to do.
The Liberals had wanted a $325 hike in tuition. They dropped that after upset to about $254, but that's different from the $70 annually. But either way, you've got to wonder what Jean Charest is thinking on a day like today, because a number of people had said that part of the reason why he didn't succeed, why he didn't win the last election, was because of what was going on with the students. That might have been only one of the reasons, but it was still a factor.
Exactly. We were talking earlier today with the rector of University of Montreal, which is one of the province's preeminent universities, and he was saying to us, of course, that there is a massive funding problem in the province of Quebec, that McGill and Concordia, and on the French side, University of Montreal and UQAM, a number, Sherbrooke University as well, a number of the universities in the province are dealing with a major cash crunch. They need more funding from the provincial government in order to hire and keep top faculty, in order to, staff the classrooms and get the research done in order to be world-class institutions, and they're not able to do that unless the provincial government gives them cash infusions. On the contrary, what's happening is there is a clawback going on. In the meantime, you have these groups out in the street saying, we don't want to pay anything at all. So something has got to give at a certain point.
I think it was either Monday or Sunday before the Education Summit started, the Quebec Education Department was painted red. They already had experienced some vandalism. Now, unfortunately, it seems that these protests are changing. These demonstrations are changing because you've seen a number of people, police grabbing a few people to stop any violence from any kind of problems from escalating. But police don't want to take any chances because of what they've seen last year, month after month, day after day at one point. Was it closer to the summer? I can't remember. You'd probably remember better than I, how these students were coming out in full force.
Yeah, what we're looking at right now is Square Victoria, which is just downtown, not too far away from Old Montreal, of course very popular with tourists. And what's interesting to remember about these protests is they are roving, right? They don't stay in one place. They move their way around the streets of Montreal. That is in part a strategy, a coordinated strategy to try to stay one step ahead of the riot police, of course, who will try to stop these protests. And before that, we were looking at what looked like a Saint-Denis Square, known as Carré Saint-Denis, which is just up on the plateau. But all these areas, Amanda, are not far from each other. They're, 5, 10, 15-minute walk from each other.
And I should point out that according to police, the protest that's been snaking through downtown since this afternoon was declared illegal because the route wasn't provided in advance.
Yes.
And that's a requirement of a municipal bylaw. We're also learning that at least one person has been arrested at this point.